Hey guys, welcome back. This is Project Life, week 29 that I'm working on today. I'm using one of my really old super mega kits, which are just kits that I combine all my old citrus twist kits into. This one is, I think, particularly old, like years old possibly. And so there's still a lot of stuff in there, but I think I'm at the point where I kind of need to go back through these mega kits and just have a little bit more of a critical eye to them, because as I've been going through these kits, there are still some things in here that I go, no, I'm not using that. And so I think I just need to maybe combine a couple of the kits, but be a little bit more critical about it. This was probably the longest part of the process for me for this week, was like picking out cards and papers. I've also got kind of a weird configuration of photos this week. What happened is I didn't have a ton of photos, but I did have one particular event this week which had a lot of photos. So rather than try to squeeze all of them into this particular week here, this spread, what I decided to do was to do a separate insert just covering that particular event. And I did actually film a process video for my patrons with this one. So it's going to join into this week, but not actually be included in this particular pocket page. So instead, I have got a photo enlargement at 6x8, and then I did a little photo grid kind of thing down the bottom. It didn't quite cover a 4x6, so I'm going to have to fill that in as well. And then I've got a couple of 3x4 slots, and I'm going to add my journaling into the last 4x6. Now, I sort of started off with these papers and whatnot, and I felt like I was getting a little bit too, I don't know what the word is, maybe like a little bit themey, like a little bit yellow. I picked out that one journal card that looks like sort of a ledger paper, and it's got a strip of yellow at the bottom. So I decided to echo that with my journaling card. I've got one of those scrapbook.com sort of ledger journal cards. I'm going to add a strip of pattern paper to the bottom of that. And then I sort of got a bit carried away picking out different yellowed things. And then obviously that giant pizza is quite a large yellow element here on the page. I didn't feel like I needed to add too much more to that. So what I started doing was trying to purposefully pick out other cards and patterns, well, particularly pattern paper, to just try to pull myself away from that yellow theme. So one of them is that diagonal stripe. It's got all the colors of the rainbow in there, but it's nice and light with the white as well. And so I'm going to add that in. But what I did, and I'm glad I did because it kind of set the tone for the page, was I started working on my title card. So I'm going to do that first, and I'm going to make sure that it is plenty colorful so that I don't get stuck on that yellow theme. What I've done is just trimmed out 3 strips of pattern paper. So I've used the yellow that I want to use, the stripe, and I've also added in this sort of love heart pattern. And I've just adhered them to the bottom of a plain 4x6 card. And then one of the things always running out of is ease. It is especially prevalent in these mega kits because I've got all these alphas in here, and I could probably count on one hand the number of E's that I have. So never going to be able to make the whole title out of one alpha. What I decided to do instead was to mix all of these alphas up and just create with all of the different ones. So this is where my kind of all the different colors comes into play in this title, and I really love how it turned out. The one alpha that I didn't use was the kind of darker blue alpha in there. Everything else is quite light and pastel-y, and you'll see here I'm going to use this kind of, I don't know the kind of color. It's like not teal, but it's not blue. It's sort of in between, and even that felt visually quite a lot darker than the rest of them. So that dark blue one was definitely going to stick out like a sore thumb. So I haven't used that, and I won't use that in the rest of the spread. Now, one of the things that this particular mega kit has I don't know why, is 2 bags of labels. So I think I'm gonna try to use these like really heavily in this spread, try to use some of these up. I picked out one, it was just a choice of trying to pick out one that kind of worked with all of these colors, but also stood out off those pattern papers. So I've gone with this tealy green color. I'm going to date stamp in here and then add that onto my card. I'm adding it underneath that title and on top of those pattern papers, so it just becomes part of kind of a cluster. I will end up adding to this card later on, but for now it gives me a nice like jumping off point as far as the colors that I'm going to use in this spread. So I've just gone ahead and run my journaling card straight through my typewriter, which was a little bit of a battle, to be honest. These blank cards from scrapbook.com are a little bit thicker cardstock, and my vintage typewriter does not love when I use those. So I fought it a little bit. I also did a little bit more journaling than I had probably intended to do or thought I would do. So the strip at the bottom of the pattern paper is a little bit smaller. And then I've got this kind of odd gap at the top of the card, so I'm going to fill it in a little bit. I am using the Stacks On stamp set, which was just released yesterday from Kellie Stamps. I'm going to partially stamp one of the sentiments. It says what a day, and I've just changed it so it says what a week. And instead of stamping in black, which would be my normal go-to, I stamped it in that same kind of lighter tealy green color, just so that it didn't take up too much predominance. I didn't want it to be super heavy because there is not a lot of space up the top of that card, so that kind of, it adds my sentiment but doesn't take up too much room, if you get what I mean. My kit did have a few die cuts in here. When I say a few, I mean a heap. There's a heap of die cuts. I'm not going to use too many of them though. I'm just going to quickly whip through these and pull out some of the ones that I think I might use. And spoiler alert, as always, I don't use nearly as many as I pull out, and I end up using other ones anyway, but it gives me a starting point. There was one in here that I really particularly liked, and I just wanted to see whether there were any stickers or anything else that kind of went with that. This was the week that we ended up switching both electricity and internet suppliers, so that was stressful and exciting. And so I'm going to add this little die cut. It says, "Let's get this over with." It seemed appropriate. When I pulled out the label though, I want to stamp a sentiment on there. Luckily I hadn't stuck that down quite fully yet. I decided the stamp would work better if the label was on the other side. So I'm going to also stamp one of these stamps that says, "So this happened." And you can see it fits in much better on this side. Otherwise it would have been too much of that die cut would have covered up the label and it wouldn't have sat nicely in there. So I'm kind of going to do the same thing, well, I was going to say on this card, but really all over the whole spread. Is it's just going to be kind of a mixture of stamps and a few die cuts and a lot of those labels. Like I said, I really want to use up as many as I can. One of the die cuts in this pack were the kind of tab shapes, so I decided to stamp my stamp underneath and then add the die cut on top. It just was not quite the right shape, but it was easily remedied. I just chopped a little bit off the right hand side and then I can pop that on, and it covers up the stamp just the right amount, just a little bit, so that you can see that it's layered rather than just stamped on top of where the die cut sits. And then I'm going to stamp another stamp on top of the label. So I love that kind of layered look that I get with this. And again, at the end of the video, I'm kind of going to go through and add a few puffy stickers and just fill in some of those kind of clusters that I'm creating. There were a few chipboard sheets, and sort of tiny word stickers, but one of the things that I loved about this particular kit that I pulled out is it had almost a whole sheet of puffy heart stickers, and you know they're my favorite kind, so I can't help myself. I really am going to just sprinkle them everywhere over this spread. Now, same thing goes for here, except this is a darker kind of photo, and I want to be able to stamp straight onto my photo. I am going to layer the label. I'm also going to layer a chipboard piece on here as well, but to stamp onto the actual photo itself, I'm going to use my Brilliance Moonlight White ink. It's my favorite ink for stamping on photos, and as always, I print at home on Canon Photo Glossy 2 paper. It's designed for absorbing ink, which means it stamps beautifully, so I can stamp straight away, and you can see the lovely white crisp stamping you get on there. So same thing, I'm going to layer a label. This one's a little bit of a different label, but because I've used the white stamping and the chipboard piece that I want to use is also white, I was looking for like a label or a die cut that wasn't white itself. So this label is particularly different to the rest of them on the spread, but it's there for a reason, so that when I layer up this white chipboard on top of it, there is actually kind of a color difference on there. I mean, granted, not a strong color difference, but better than white on white. So my last little 4x6 card here, I'm just going to add my photo cluster onto the right hand side, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. This is another kind of different sort of label. Because I'm adding more than 3, I think it works because they're all sort of different shapes, different sizes, different colors, that sort of thing. I'm actually going to end up layering 2, and this one is pretty similar to the one I've used at the top. So again, just that little bit of repetition. As again with my stamp, this time I am going to stamp in black because I'm going to stamp onto the label rather than onto the photo. Now, if you haven't seen my process video from yesterday, my little repeat stamping hack video, the stamp set is great. It's kind of a general sort of stamp set, which I love. I use them a lot. But these ones, the stamps all stack really nicely, as you can see, when you stack more than one of them together, hence the name, Stacks On. I just feel like it's a perfect little stamp set for anything, like Project Life, Traveler's Notebooks. It just works really well. And as always, in the description box, I have a discount code if you want to check out the Kellie Stamps store, so don't forget to do that as well. Now here you can see I'm just sprinkling these little puffy sticker hearts all over the page. I added a couple to my title card and a couple to some of the other clusters, and I called my layout done. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there's a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye.